Hey everybody, this evening's project is going to be working on my Angelfish tank here. I've got some Java Fern that I pulled out of my Gourami tank recently. It's got a huge root mass on it, and it's got a bunch of gravel all, stuck into the roots and everything. And it's black gravel. It's actually the planted substrate that I use in most of my tanks. So I'm going to work a little more on getting rid of the substrate that's in here. I've been slowly but surely vacuuming it out. And today I'm going to make another pass. I'm going to get in there with my siphon hose and a bucket, and I'm going to remove as much as I can while I do a water change. I think I'm also going to pull all of this water sprite out of here. If you look at it closely, this is one of my tanks that has the green cyanobacteria, and it's not bad, but it is in there, and if I can pull it out in large quantities, it certainly doesn't hurt. And I know it's kind of hard to see through all the roots there, but if you see that dark green in the middle, it almost looks like it's been spray painted. That is actually the sheets of cyanobacteria growing on the floating water sprite here. So I've got enough of that in other tanks that I can just pull some babies out. The stuff grows like mad, so in no time flat we'll have more water sprite in the tank. The main thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get down here in the bottom and I'm going to vac out a lot of this gravel, but chiefly I'm going to vac it out where you can see all of this bright green cyanobacteria. This is one of the tanks that I've had it in forever, but it more or less stays under control. It's always sort of a battle. I stay on top of it, but it doesn't require very much work for me to stay on top of it. I recently replaced the lights on one of the fixtures on top of this tank, and I now have 4 high output T5s, so this tank is cranking out the light, and as a result you can see how much more rapidly the cyanobacteria down here is growing. It's really easy to remove. It comes off in big sheets. I should be able to suck big chunks of it out of there at a time, and hopefully I'll be able to get rid of a lot more of the substrate. I don't have anything to replace the substrate with right now, so I'm not going to empty it. I'm just in the process of working on it. I'm also going to be putting some Java Fern in here, and I'm going to be tucking that in between different bits of rock, or maybe underneath that piece of wood right there. But I'm not going to try to plant the Java in the substrate. It's going to be above the ground. It's going to be in the rocks and that sort of thing. So let me get started. I will probably shoot a little bit of video along the way, and then in the end, of course, we'll do a nice little before and after, and this tank is probably going to look dramatically different once I get done with all my little project today. Alright, that's one bucket full. We'll probably do that at least one more time, and then we'll get to working on the plants. Alright everybody, believe it or not, that is not all of the Java Fern that I had. I actually left a little bit of it in the bucket. I also had some Java moss in the bucket, and I had planned on putting some of that in there too, just maybe wrapping it around the piece of woodwork or something and letting it kind of just grow out. But I decided against it. As you can see, I've got a lot of greenery in there now, and hopefully it will start rooting in and growing. Nothing really amazing or anything. I just tucked it here and there. I got a little piece tucked under that wood. This is tucked in underneath these rocks. I did a little rearranging while I was in there. The Anubias, I tried to move around a little bit, and I was able to break this piece off here. So that is now an individual piece. It had actually rooted into the bottom though. It had its roots down underneath of the rocks a little bit, and I wasn't able to do anything about moving it without actually ripping it completely out. So I just kind of tucked it down in there in the rocks a little bit, and I'm going to let it sort of grow back in and do its thing. Believe it or not, that Synodontis flashing like that is not unusual. I'm not worried about him showing any signs of any kind of parasites or anything like that. It's not unusual to see that kind of behavior after a water change, and he will often do that against a rock and then come back around and then graze off of the rock where he knocked any kind of surface stuff loose. So if the behavior like that continued for any length of time, I would definitely pay attention to it. Obviously, I did notice it even though it was out of the corner of my eye. If you see your fishes flashing like that and scraping against stuff, you should really pay attention to what's going on. A lot of times that's an indication that they have an external parasite, or the water conditions are not correct. There's a variety of reasons that your fish might do that. And when they do, it's generally means something is not right. But this fish does that all the time, so I'm not concerned. I will keep my eye on it though. So at any rate, this piece of Anubias is now a new chunk. I have this piece which is grown over that rock, and then this whole branch in the back, you can see that long segment of root, that's attached to the piece of woodwork that's in there. And all of that Anubias was the original Anubias I put in this tank when I first set it up a few years ago. So that's how slowly that's grown. It's taken a few years just to grow into that sort of massive Anubias in there like that. And then of course you can see I've got a little more of that Java Fern tucked in here, and I've got some tucked in there. This is kind of down in the bottom. I'm going to see if it roots into the ground a little bit or into the substrate a little bit. I can always pull it out later. I'm not too worried about it. With Java Fern, you really want to make sure you don't bury that rhizome. It looks like that sort of main root body, the darker green. That's actually a rhizome, and if you bury it too much, it will suffocate it, and it won't grow very well or won't grow at all. So that's why Java Fern usually gets tucked in around rocks or onto pieces of woodwork, and or it gets rooted in and the rhizome sort of stays exposed above the soil like that, or above the substrate like that. So we'll see how it all takes, and we'll see how it all sort of fills in and grows in. So make sure you're subscribed, that way you won't miss any updates. Again, this is my Angelfish Tank. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.